A millionaire's hidden loves surface. Discover the incredible girl playing his childhood song. Jack Thompson, now a self-made millionaire at 38, stood frozen on the cracked sidewalk of his childhood neighborhood, a place long forgotten. The vibrant laughter of children and the warm scent of apple pie wafted through the air, pulling him toward the quaint cafe he used to visit. His mind twisted in knots as memories collided with reality. Could he reconnect with the boy who dared to dream? Or was he too far gone, swallowed by the amber glow of success? He took a step inside, dread nestled in his chest. The cafe looked the same, old wooden tables with shallow dents and chipped paint. Stale sunlight spilled across the floor, illuminating dust motes floating like lost hopes. In the corner, a young waitress with wind-tousled hair and an effortless smile held a guitar, striking chords that pulled Jack from the darkness in his mind. It was a song from his youth. His fingers itched to reach for the music again. The forgotten desires surged forward like a tidal wave. Yet something kept him anchored in place, a gnawing fear clawing at his resolve. "Are you all right?" Emily's voice, sweet like honey, broke his trance. He blinked, lost in the contours of her smile, a bridge to a world he had abandoned for boardrooms and corporate ladders. As she continued singing, a flicker of the boy he once was ignited within him. Ambition weighed heavy on his shoulders, but her voice lightened his burdens. Conviction rooted within him. He wanted to help her chase her dream of music education, to reconnect with music himself. But as he felt even the slightest urge to mentor her, doubt flooded in. Could he risk his tightly woven facade for this vibrant spark of life? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. His mind spiraled into deep conflict. On one hand, there was the glimmer of something new, a passion unearthed. On the other, the weight of corporate scandal loomed like a storm cloud overhead. Was it too late to rekindle the joy music once brought him, or remain ensnared in the gilded cage of his accomplishments? The ghosts of his father's struggles haunted him. How could he allow himself to be vulnerable after the sacrifices made? What would Emily think when she learned the truth behind his accolades, the secrets tucked away among yearly revenue reports and boardroom victories? Jack stood at the intersection of his past and present. Ambition coiled tightly around his heart, constricting any chance of solace. Desperation clawed at him as whispers of judgment echoed. Could he disentangle his world from the pristine image he had crafted with such painstaking effort? He caught a glimpse of Emily watching him, her eyes burning with curiosity, an invitation wrapped in uncertainty. In those murmurs of hope and dread, Jack realized the next move might shatter everything he knew. As the music faded, he found himself teetering on the edge of an unknown abyss, looking back toward a life filled with vibrant melodies and warmth, or forward into the cold, unfeeling reach of corporate success that had become his life. Jack took a deep breath, summoning the courage buried beneath his carefully constructed exterior. Emily continued strumming her guitar, oblivious to the war raging inside him. The delicate chords echoed in the cafe, creating a rhythm that matched the chaotic beats of his heart. Could he really shift his focus from cold profits to the brilliant fire of passion? He stepped toward her, each stride a battle against the invisible chains of his reputation. "That song, it was my favorite," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. Fear and exhilaration coursed through him, twisting together like strands of a new melody. She looked up, her bright eyes sparking recognition that ignited something deep within Jack. "Really, I love it too," she replied, her enthusiasm infectious, as she eagerly transitioned into another song. Jack leaned on the edge of a wooden table, drawn to the warmth her presence exuded. The resonance from the strings seemed to expand the space between them, softening his internal struggle. For the first time in years, the pressure of societal expectations lessened, allowing a touch of hope to seep in. "Do you play often?" he asked, aware that this simple inquiry felt revolutionary. He could feel the weight of his corporate identity drifting, and a new ambition began to take shape. Mentoring her could awaken dormant facets of his own creativity, even if the risks felt terrifying. "I try to," Emily replied, plucking at the strings with fingers deft and confident. "Music is so much more than just notes, you know. It teaches us about ourselves." Her words hit him like an unexpected note, vibrating with truth. Jack found himself reflecting on his own life, every success measured in dollars, with increasingly less joy or authenticity. He had been a mere spectator of his own achievements. What if I wanted to do something different? The thought tumbled from his mind before he could temper its implications, intrusive yet liberating. The question hung in the air, a potential doorway to a version of himself he'd suppressed for far too long. Emily paused mid-strum, her gaze steady. "Well, what's stopping you?" Jack was held captive by the simplicity of her question. The fiercely calculated world he inhabited demanded a robust self-image, while the boy who had strummed goofy tunes in his bedroom yearned for connection and purpose. Doubt swirled amidst his thoughts. Redirecting his life felt akin to stepping off a cliff without knowing where he might land. "If I embrace this feeling, what about my business?" he mused out loud. "People depend on my success." "Are they depending on the real you?" she countered, steely conviction behind her words. "Or just the image you've created?" The question lodged itself in his throat, a knot of realization forming. His success wasn't merely personal. It was interwoven with expectations, a tapestry of judgments, many generated by his own mind. But what would happen if he prioritized the music, even if the pursuit led to a downturn in his business? Jack's vision began to sharpen, the precariousness of stepping into the unknown clashing against the sweetness of her song. He needed to reclaim his true self. Perhaps this was how he could support Emily, channeling his resources and connections toward a pursuit of music that could enliven both their lives. The thought invigorated him, propelling him forward. With newfound resolve, he straightened his back, taking a step toward Emily and the world she represented. "Let's talk about a plan," he declared, his voice steady. "I want to help you with your music education aspirations." Her surprise quickly morphed into a radiant smile. Yet, in the pit of his stomach lay a fresh tension. Stepping forward was merely the beginning. He was still with one foot in the corporate world, caught between fear and yearning. As they mapped out their next steps, the familiar shadows of doubt crept back into his mind. Jack knew their plans could attract unwelcome scrutiny, but for the first time, he was prepared to weather it. This felt right. He had taken the first of many steps toward transforming his life. But the looming question remained. Would his past definitions of success forgive him for daring to pursue a new path? The cafe door creaked open, a gust of cool air sending a shiver across Jack's thoughts. Behind him stood a figure from his past, someone he never expected to see again, a potential disruptor of the fragile peace he'd begun to forge. The moment of truth approached. He braced himself for the confrontation ahead. As Jack turned to face the figure emerging from the doorway, dread coiled in his stomach. Mark, his former business partner and relentless critic, strode into the cafe, exuding an air of unyielding certainty. Mark had an uncanny ability to pierce through facades, and Jack could feel his careful construction of a new identity begin to shatter. "Jack, it's been a while." Mark's voice propelled a wave of familiarity and unease. Jack forced a smile, but felt as if he were caught in the headlights of a fast-approaching car. Mark's probing gaze shifted from Jack to Emily, momentarily suspended in absorbing the scene. A $1 million deal might linger beneath the surface here. Who's this? Mark's interest was sharp. Jack's attempt to explore a different path suddenly seemed vulnerable, laid bare in front of his old partner. "This is Emily," Jack introduced, scanning her face for a flicker of support. "She's an aspiring musician." The term tasted foreign on his tongue, awakening old fears that whispered about failure. Emily's confidence stood against the weight of scrutiny. "I'm working on a project that Jack is helping me with," she remarked, holding Mark's gaze unflinchingly. Jack admired the strength in her response, a thread of partnership that tethered him to this newfound direction. Mark raised an eyebrow, his smile adopting a skeptical twist. "Helping is one way to say it. Isn't the real question why you're veering off the path that brought you so much success?" Jack felt the tightening grip of doubt. Mark's probing questions dug into his spirit like thorns. "Because I want to explore something more personal than profit," he replied, trying to maintain an even tone, though his heart raced in protest. "Personal? You mean indulgent," Mark retorted, dismissing the sentiment instantly. "Your clients depend on you, Jack. You can't just toss it all aside." As those words bled into the air, Jack's resolve wavered. Emily's expression, however, reflected a quiet determination. "What does it mean to be successful if you're not fulfilled?" she interjected. Shock flickered in Mark's eyes, but Jack sensed a flicker of recognition, perhaps a yearning for something genuine beneath the hardened exterior his former partner wore. The silence that followed felt electric in the cafe, tension woven intricately into the air. Jack's mind raced. Was it possible that Mark's words echoed his own fears? The choices he made could either carve a new path or plunge him into despair. Jack knew this confrontation held significant weight. It could redefine his upcoming choices. "I'm not tossing everything away," Jack countered, his conviction strengthening. "Instead, I'm creating space for what truly matters." With that simple declaration, he stepped closer to Emily, feeling a burgeoning bond of mutual growth plant itself between them. "Space might lead to empty pockets," Mark replied, the tension between them sharpened as if they stood on opposite ends of a taut rope. Jack had always played it safe, chased profits that seemed illustrious, and now the prospect of pursuing passion felt both exhilarating and foolish. But a subtle change lurked within him, a determination that was building, ignited by each moment with Emily. "But what about passion?" he challenged, surprising himself. This assertion was not just a defense, it was an invitation to reclaim an identity he couldn't abandon any longer. Mark scoffed, but Jack saw a flicker of uncertainty ripple across his features. "You're making a mistake, Jack. You let this girl distract you, and you'll fall." An invisible line had been drawn between past and present, one that Jack sensed was pivotal. The calling to face these buried emotions surged within him. He had distanced himself from the entrapments of dough and digits, yet Mark's stance reminded him that facing reality was part of the journey. It was now or never. "Perhaps," Jack said, voice steady, "but it's one I need to explore." He sought to establish boundaries, yet the nagging voice of doubt struck again. Is this truly the path he was meant to forge? As the words settled, a palpable silence ensued. Mark's expression darkened, neither acceptance nor rejection evident. Jack felt the candle of opportunity flicker dangerously. Then, as if in slow motion, a decision rippled through Jack's entire being, a commitment to embrace whatever came next, for better or for worse. The noise of the cafe faded, replaced by the drum of his heartbeat. Mark turned and began to leave, but not without one last glance. "Just remember, Jack, you can't afford to lose yourself completely." The door swung shut behind him, leaving a detonation of possibilities in his wake, a world that felt confusing yet enticing. Jack turned to Emily, her gaze a mirror reflecting audacious ambition. With the remnants of the confrontation hanging in the air, he felt the weight of the moment settle. There would be resistance on this path of self-discovery, but he had begun to unearth the contours of his true self. What Jack didn't know was how fiercely his choices would be tested in the weeks to come, and whether he could truly navigate the shifting tides of success, authenticity, and love in a world lesser known. Jack sat across from Emily, who now seemed illuminated by the sunlight filtering through the cafe window. Her passion for music radiated from her in an unexpected way, breathing life into Jack's quiet resolve. The confrontation with Mark had unsettled a well of emotions within him, yet it also provided clarity about the direction he wanted to take. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Emily asked, her voice gently probing, yet laced with encouragement. Jack could feel the flicker of doubt trying to rear its head. "Ready? I don't even know what this really is." The honesty in his admission felt liberating, a counterintuitive step toward embracing uncertainty. Each word felt like a step closer to the person he was meant to become. "Exploring your passion? It sounds daunting, but you have to start somewhere," she replied, her unwavering belief rekindling his own. The cafe bustled around them, a living metaphor for Jack's internal chaos. He could take the safe route, return to the familiar world where success was measured in numbers, or he could plunge into the unknown, where the only currency was passion. "I feel like I need a plan," he said, more to pacify his own anxiety than from belief that a blueprint was necessary. Emily leaned forward, her enthusiasm infectious. "What if we start small? A few jam sessions, maybe try writing some songs. You could bring your business perspective to my project and see if it resonates with people." Jack pondered this. The idea of collaboration excited him, yet overflowing memories of office meetings and corporate jargon cluttered his mind. "I don't want to turn your art into a business venture," confessed, anxiety gnawing at him. "Art and business can coexist. Music is crafted, and businesses can thrive when they honor creativity too," she countered, her eyes shimmering with conviction. As the conversation unfolded, Jack felt the tug of a path diverging from the one he had walked for so long. Each idea exchanged with Emily served as sculpting tools, chiseling away the layers of doubt that have built up around him over the years. After a few minutes, he felt himself leaning forward, engaging rather than analyzing. "Okay, how about we brainstorm together? I keep a notebook full of ideas. If I can write one line a day, it will lead somewhere, right?" He was surprised at his eagerness. This could be the stake he drove into the ground to mark a new territory of identity, one that he thought he had abandoned too quickly. Emily smiled as if she had just witnessed a breakthrough. "That's it. Creativity needs breathing space. I have some ideas too. Let's bring them together." In that moment, Jack envisioned the first notes of a melody beginning to flow, fueled by his experiences and conversations with Emily. The tension from earlier faded slightly, replaced by anticipation of the unknown. But as the excitement bubbled, another voice echoed faintly in the recesses of his mind. The warnings Mark had offered clashed with the thrill of this newfound direction, creating a dissonance that underlined every thought. Was he truly ready to break free from the comfort of the past? With every thought, he felt the dual strains of fear and hope waging war within. Jack leaned back, crossing his arms defensively as he considered his next move. He realized that the question was no longer merely about music. It was about embracing a different version of himself, one that encompassed both risk and opportunity, creation and chaos. The barista interrupted their moment, setting down steaming cups with a cheerful "enjoy" that momentarily shattered Jack's trance-like contemplation. "Let's meet tomorrow," Emily suggested, her enthusiasm clearly brightening the air around them. Jack nodded, forcing himself to hold on to that spark of ambition, despite the nagging fear that threatened to snuff it out. Emerging from the cafe, he understood that tomorrow would demand more than sweet melodies and creative writing. It would ask for bravery, authenticity, and honesty in facing everything he had hidden away. There was something brewing in him, a recognition that this was not just his path to personal discovery. It was also an invitation to unearth deeper truths about himself, those tangled messes of emotions and the fragmented remnants of his past. As he walked away, Jack imagined the possibilities stretching before him. He could feel the ground shifting as he stepped onto this new terrain, yet uncertainty loomed like shadows in the corners of his mind. Somewhere within, he questioned whether he had the courage to move forward, to confront not just the music, but the lingering demons of doubt and fear that had long held him. There was something brewing in him, a recognition that this was not just his path to personal discovery. It was also an invitation to unearth deeper truths about himself, those tangled messes of emotions and the fragmented remnants of his past. As he walked away, Jack imagined the possibilities stretching before him. He could feel the ground shifting as he stepped onto this new terrain, yet uncertainty loomed like shadows in the corners of his mind. Somewhere within, he questioned whether he had the courage to move forward, to confront not just the music, but the lingering demons of doubt and fear that had long held him.
Captive. But as Jack glanced back to find Emily laughing at a passing joke, something inside him shifted again, a burgeoning hope revitalized by the promise of shared discovery. What he didn't know was how quickly the next encounter with both his old life and new aspirations would reveal deeper truths, causing him to confront not just fears, but hidden talents that would test his resolve in ways he had never anticipated. The next morning dawned with a clarity that felt surreal to Jack. The sun filtered through his bedroom window, illuminating the crumpled notebook on his bedside table, pages filled with half-formed thoughts and scattered ideas about the song he had yet to write. Even as he rubbed sleep from his eyes, the weight of his decision pressed against his chest. Today would be different. Today he would lean into the challenging tides tugging at him. He experienced a mix of anticipation and dread as he headed to the cafe where he and Emily had agreed to meet. The world outside was vibrant, yet the familiar corporate atmosphere that haunted him felt suffocating. Each step he took echoed with the conviction that he was leaving behind a version of himself that had grown stale. Walking through the cafe doors, he spotted Emily already seated at their usual spot. She was animatedly scribbling notes, her presence an anchoring force amidst the swirling uncertainties he felt. As he approached her table, she looked up, her smile igniting what felt like a dormant flame within him. "Ready for our session?" she asked, her enthusiasm infectious as she motioned to the pile of sheet music and lyrics scattered on the table before her. Jack took a seat, his heart thumping in rhythm with the buzzing of the cafe. "I think so. I've been brainstorming some lines," he replied, the tremor in his voice betraying the confidence he tried to exude. As he opened his notebook, a sudden wave of vulnerability washed over him. The comfort of ideas transforming into sound felt monumental, and he questioned if he truly had the skill to create something worthy. Emily leaned closer, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Let's hear them. You might surprise yourself." Despite the gnawing doubt, he read a few lines aloud. They were raw and vulnerable, a glimpse into emotions he hadn't fully acknowledged. As he finished, he searched Emily's face for reaction. Instead of critique, he found a warm smile. "That's beautiful, Jack. You've captured something really genuine there. It's a start." Her words stirred something stubborn within him, a seduction of possibility. A sense of purpose sharpened his focus. Their collaborative effort began to take shape, a whirl of ideas, melodies, and shared laughter. He found himself more engaged than he'd anticipated, the boundaries of his previous life blurring with the exhilarating world that Emily represented. Yet, just beneath the surface of this newfound drive, old specters loomed, whispers of Mark's disapproval haunting him. "What if people don't like it? What if it's not good enough?" Jack blurted, his voice dipping into self-doubt as he jotted down more lines. The laughter from earlier evaporated.
Emily didn't hesitate. "Who cares what they think? This is yours, Jack. It's your expression. It doesn't need to be perfect." Her resolute gaze pierced through his unease, illuminating a path he could not yet see. Her unwavering belief was a lifeline amidst the rising tide of apprehension. Yet as they continued, every chord struck, and every word penned felt tinged with the looming question. What if this endeavor wasn't simply an exploration of creativity? What if it bore the weight of a bigger transformation? By the time the sun began to dip in the sky, their session had birthed a melody that flowed effortlessly between them. Jack was beginning to find not only his voice, but also a deeper understanding of himself. There was something intrinsically liberating in sharing his vulnerability through art, and each note seemed to resonate with unvoiced desires trapped within him. In that moment of collaboration, as music filled the air around them, Jack recalled flashes of his childhood, memories aligned to every note they crafted. He had found remnants of that boy who used to sing freely, lost somewhere in the shadows of adulthood. Yet as he smiled at Emily, feeling buoyed by creativity, a sliver of doubt wormed its way back. Mark's warning echoed, a clarion call of caution. Was he too far removed from that corporate world? What if those threads of his former life were woven too tightly to unbind? "Tomorrow, let's meet again and share what we've created with the world," Emily suggested, excitement dancing in her eyes. Jack's heart raced. The thought of actual exposure was both electrifying and terrifying. Was he truly ready to lift the veil? Could he withstand whatever awaited him beyond this sanctuary they had built? Unease clashed against exhilarating possibility, prompting him to confront the depths of his resolve. Were courage and authenticity enough to overcome his deeply rooted fears? The question loomed heavy as they shared another laugh, sealing plans for the morrow. At last, it became clear. Tomorrow would not just be about music. It would be a pivotal test of who he was becoming. And as they parted for the evening, he was left to wrestle with the undeniable truth that some truths might shatter him, while others could finally set him free. With his heart racing and uncertainty mingling with a rising sense of determination, Jack walked away, stepping boldly into his own unknown future, unaware that an unexpected discovery awaited him just around the corner. The next morning arrived with a bone-deep stillness that matched Jack's racing thoughts. He had not slept much, tossing and turning amid an internal storm that accompanied the promise of the day ahead. Each tick of the clock mercilessly amplified his anxiety, as memories of laughter and music replayed in his mind, blending seamlessly with the haunting echoes of self-doubt. As he prepared for his meeting with Emily, he momentarily hesitated, his fingers hovering over the guitar strings. Could he do this? The weight of his insecurities felt like an anchor, dragging at him, threatening to pull him back into familiar, unfulfilling waters. Yet, beneath the self-doubt, shimmered a newfound resolve, an ember of excitement that felt foreign, yet intoxicating. Arriving at the cafe, he found Emily already deep in thought, gazing at the sheet music with a look of determination he had come to admire. Jack took a seat with a wobbling mix of eagerness and apprehension. The previous day's melody danced in his memory, a testament to his ambition, an ambition he was painfully aware might be a facade. "Jack," she greeted with an encouraging smile, "I've been thinking about where we can take the song today. Are you feeling ready?" "Ready?" he echoed, taking a deep breath. "I'm trying to be." Picking up the guitar, he strummed the opening chords they had crafted together. Even as the notes flowed from his fingertips, a knot tightened in his stomach. What if this wasn't good enough? What if he was just delaying the inevitable moment when the world would see through him? To his surprise, Emily leaned in, her enthusiasm electrifying the air. "That sounds great! Now let's play around with the lyrics." With each strum, Jack felt the sanctuary of their shared creative space push back against the heavy armor of self-doubt. The moment he laid his voice over the soothing chords, something shifted. The vulnerabilities he had exposed the day before felt less like weaknesses and more like invitations for connection, his journey toward authenticity. As the session unfolded, Emily's laughter and constructive critiques weaved into his awareness, painting a picture of progress. "Try allowing yourself to add more personal reflection," she encouraged, her voice tender but firm. "What do you really want to say?" He paused, the question echoing in the depths of his mind. What did he want to say? A feeling swelled within him, a mix of fear and exhilaration, reminiscent of those childhood days in his room, where he could pour out his heart without concern for judgment. With a surge of courage, he let the music guide him, crafting lyrics that felt raw and unrefined. But with each word he sang, Mark's taunting skepticism lurked at the edges. Would this be enough to withstand the judgment of a world that had once favorably looked upon commercial success? Or was this pursuit of art merely a fool's errand? Jack's heart raced as the right answers evaded him. As they finished a chorus, he caught a glimpse of the sunset hues streaming through the cafe window. The stark colors seemed to mirror the duality of his existence, an artist fighting for expression, constantly wary of the judgments awaiting him. Emily's eyes sparkled, and she leaned forward. "Jack, you've created something beautiful here. Trust in it. Trust in yourself." Her words carried a weight that resonated deep within him, igniting a spark of belief.
Against the storm of fear, Jack wanted to retort. Doubt swelled, eager to contradict her praise, but something stopped him. It was as if for the first time he realized this journey was about more than just the music. It was about the daring leap into honesty, the willingness to face both compliments and criticism. But just as he felt the flicker of self-assurance, uncertainty slithered back in uninvited. Was he really prepared to share this with the world? The thought sent a chill through him. "Do you think we should maybe let someone listen to it today?" Emily asked, her enthusiasm unfurling like a sail catching the wind. Jack's heart plummeted, a tightness springing into the back of his throat. Today? The notion of exposing themselves felt more than just daunting. It felt like standing naked before a crowd, stripped of pretense. "Why not?" his voice faltered, but a surge of determination tucked itself into the corners of his resolve. With trembling hands and a pounding heart, he faced the prospect of revealing his creation. It was time to step beyond his doubts and into the light. What would happen once they pressed play on the world outside? Emerging from their cocoon would not just test his abilities, but crack open the very shell of who he thought he was. And deep down, amid the uncertainty, Jack knew one thing for sure. The door had begun to creak open. The journey thus far had merely been a prelude. What awaited him on the other side could either build him up or tear him down, but there was no escaping it now. As they ventured into the unknown of their artistic fate, Jack's pulse quickened, waiting, hoping for the undeniable revelation that truly lay ahead. Jack's breath was shallow as the words hung in the air like a challenge, daring him to act. The notion of sharing their song felt surreal, a terrifying leap from the cocoon of creation to the harsh light of judgment. He stole a glance at Emily, whose hope-filled gaze anchored him. Maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't be as excruciating as he imagined. "Okay," he acquiesced, trying to infuse resolution into his voice. "Let's do this." Emily's enthusiasm swept over him, igniting a spark he barely understood. They grabbed their instruments and set off, a nervous excitement bubbling beneath the surface. Each footstep seemed to thrum with the rhythm of the song they had crafted together. They settled on a nearby bench, a perfect spot to invite the world into their creative space. Jack's palms felt clammy as he adjusted his guitar strap, the weight of the instrument paralleling the weight of his uncertainty. Underneath it all was a hint of something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in ages: anticipation. With Emily's encouragement, he strummed the initial chords once more,
the familiar notes grounding him in the moment. As the melody filled the air, he locked eyes with a passerby, a random stranger who paused to listen. The ripple of vulnerability returned, but this time he sought to harness it, transforming the energy into strength. As Emily joined in with her voice, Jack fought against the ghost of doubt that whispered ceaselessly, questioning every note and every word. What if they weren't good enough? What if failure was just a breath away? Influenced by her presence, Jack found himself getting lost in the music. The notes began to tell a story, one that felt truer than any fabricated facade. He sang as if the world had fallen away, captivated by the essence of their collaboration. With each verse, the connection grew, not just between him and Emily, but with the audience, strangers who began to gather, their faces revealing curiosity and delight. When they reached the chorus, Jack felt a wave of exhilaration wash over him. His voice rang clear and steady, riding on the wings of the melody. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting go of the anxiety that had plagued him. In this fleeting burst of confidence, he could almost believe what Emily saw in him. After the last note echoed into the air, silence enveloped them for a moment, pregnant with anticipation. Then a round of applause erupted from the small crowd that had gathered, slicing through his trepidation and replacing it with a warm rush of pride. The realization that they had made an impact, even in this casual setting, sent a rush of empowerment coursing through him. Emily's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm, and a grin broke across her face. "That was amazing! See, you have something special to share." Her words pierced through the shell of lingering self-doubt, just enough for light to seep in. Perhaps this was a pivotal moment, a taste of what it felt like to bare his soul and connect with others through his art. Yet, as the crowd began to disperse, Jack was acutely aware that this was only the beginning. Would he have the strength to repeat the experience? He could still feel the heat of the applause against his skin, a reminder of the danger and joy of vulnerability. If he had touched this audience, what might happen when he pushed further into the realm of exposure? "Let's try again," he blurted out before the fleeting courage could slip away. "Maybe we could record it, or absolutely, but let's make sure we're ready to share it with more people next time. We need to upload it online, let the world hear it," Emily suggested, her eyes alight with possibility. The excitement in her voice steadied him, but the doubt lingered, whispering unwelcomed thoughts. Could he truly open himself to wider scrutiny? The fear of rejection loomed large, but beneath it, a flicker of bravery ignited, like a candle struggling against a gale. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows, Jack felt a question settle into his consciousness. Were they truly ready for whatever lay beyond this moment? Stepping into a world filled with possibilities would require more than just talent. It would demand perseverance, resilience, and an unyielding faith in the journey ahead. With a steadying breath, Jack nodded to Emily, a silent agreement to brave the fray together. He had flirted with vulnerability, brushed against the intoxicating thrill of acceptance. The looming decision electrified the air between them, but determination clung to them both, a steadfast promise amidst the swirling unknown. Together, they would navigate this territory and discover just how deep their music could resonate. If only he could brave the plunge. As he contemplated their next steps, he found himself teetering on the precipice of revelation. He thought of all the unexpressed notes that still lay ahead, waiting to be freed. What hidden truths would emerge as they pushed further into this uncharted territory? With a pulse racing against the tide of fear, Jack knew that soon he would have to confront his deepest insecurities, the first true test of their artistic adventure. The moment for honesty and authenticity beckoned, and that was only the beginning of a much greater challenge. The next day dawned bright and clear, yet Jack's mind felt clouded with uncertainty. The thrill of last night still coursed through his veins, but the specter of exposure loomed larger. Recording their song felt like stepping into the spotlight without a safety net. He paced in his small apartment, rehearsing the words he might say to Emily, calculating every possible reaction. Could he guide their vulnerable moment into something more meaningful? Emily arrived just after noon, her smile contagious and her guitar slung over her shoulder like a banner of hope. "Ready to take the next step?" she asked, excitement bubbling in her voice. "Yeah, but there's a lot at stake, isn't there?" Jack replied, his uneasiness spilling over. "What if we upload it and no one likes it? What if we get negative comments?" "Those are valid fears for sure," she acknowledged, her expression turning serious. "But imagine if we get positive feedback. Or worse yet, what if we never try? We'll never know." Her words were a beacon, and Jack could feel his discomfort kneading against a growing determination. It was true. He had already tasted the sweet nectar of connection, and the possibility of sharing more filled him with a longing he hadn't experienced before. "Then let's do it," he finally declared, the decision marking a firm pivot in his path. They set up a small makeshift recording space in her living room. The cozy atmosphere wrapped around them, but Jack fought back the chill of anxiety tapping at his spine. He felt the weight of every note, every lyric, as if they were tangible entities charged with the energy of their contributions. Rapid thoughts swirled in his head, mingling with flashes of excitement, but tethered down by the pervasive sense of vulnerability that threatened to consume him. "Let's start with the chorus. It's our strongest part," Emily suggested, her voice steady and encouraging. With that, they began again. As they dove into the song, Jack drew from deep within, letting the chords spill out like stories waiting to be told. The initial clumsiness gave way to a rhythm that felt alive. Emily's harmonies interlaced flawlessly with his, and together they crafted a moment that shimmered with potential. But each note teetered dangerously close to exposing their fears. Jack wrestled with the urge to retreat, but he dug deeper, searching for a voice that was true. His intentions crystallized into something resembling raw honesty. What did he truly have to lose? Would this attempt affirm his worth or unravel him further? As they played through their take, something shifted in him. It was more than just the sound of their music. It was the realization that he was not merely a conduit for talent, but a storyteller. This was his narrative, his journey, and he had every right to share it. When they finished, the room radiated with a stillness that fell over them like a blanket. "That was incredible!" Emily exclaimed, her eyes bright with encouragement. "Now let's listen back." With shaky fingers, Jack hit play on the recording, their song unfurling through the speakers. Each note resonated, alive in a way he hadn't predicted. Yet his inner critic chimed in, cloaked in doubt. As the last chord faded, their eyes met, his searching for validation, hers brimming with excitement. "What do you think?" she asked, her voice layered with hope. "I think it needs more. I don't know. Maybe it's too raw?" Deep-rooted frustration bubbled. Was he ever satisfied, or was he conditioned to always glimpse the imperfections? "Or it's exactly what it needs to be," she countered gently. "Authentic, real. It's part of who we are." Her assurance opened the door to another avenue of reflection in him. Perhaps that was the point of creation, to be raw, to be genuinely exposed. But did he want to be that vulnerable out in the world? "Okay, let's get this uploaded," Jack finally said, determination hardening his resolve, despite the whirlwind of doubt still swirling within. He felt fear wrestle with excitement, each fleeting thought igniting reflections of the life he truly desired. With every click that led them closer to sharing their creation, the excitement was palpable. This felt monumental. Yet as they prepared to hit the upload button, a sudden question clawed at him. What if this moment thrust him into a realm he wasn't yet prepared for? As Jack inhaled deeply, at the edge of this new frontier, he realized they were not only revealing their art, but their very selves. Would this leap shatter him or lead to unforeseen growth? The answer hung precariously in the air, tantalizingly close, yet sentimentally far. In that moment, he sensed the revelation awaiting him. The leap of faith wasn't just about sharing their song. It was about confronting fundamental truths about himself, some he had buried deep. With a hesitant finger poised above the button, Jack sensed the weight of his destiny. Future hanging in the balance. Would he dare to embrace his truth and face whatever comes next? Jack's finger trembled above the upload button, the pulse of anticipation thrumming through his veins. In that crucial moment, he was overwhelmed by a flurry of emotions. He envisioned the range of possible reactions: applause, silence, or worse yet, mockery. The spotlight felt blinding, even if it was just a flicker of virtual attention. With the sound of Emily's encouraging voice echoing in his mind, "It's part of who we are," he steeled himself. The click of the mouse reverberated in the room like a gunshot, breaking the silence. The deed was done. Their song was now out there, a new entity in the vast world of the internet, vulnerable yet alive. "What now?" Jack asked, turning to Emily, who radiated joy. She looked a mixture of exhilarated and relieved, as if they had just scaled a daunting mountain. "Now we wait, and we keep creating." Her confidence was infectious, yet he still felt the weight of anxiety. What if this was it for him, the pinnacle of his musical journey? He quickly shoved the thought aside. He couldn't afford to think that way. As the hours turned into days, Jack found himself obsessed with the notion of waiting. He paced back and forth, replaying the song in his mind, scrutinizing their choices. He was acutely aware of the time swirling around him. Was it merely paranoia, or an inevitable consequence of making himself visible? Each day brought new comments, an unpredictable tide of praise and critique alike. Jack cultivated a habit of checking their page, his heart racing each time. He felt both connected and isolated, buoyed by compliments, yet stung by the inevitable harsh notes that popped up. Too raw, not commercial enough, and the worst, why bother? With each comment, he felt a part of himself chip away, ensnared in external assessments of his worth. He avoided reading them aloud to Emily, worried about how her optimism would clash with his burgeoning dread. Instead, he dove into practice, bathing in the comfort of repetition, committing to refining their craft. Determined to evolve, Jack began to explore songwriting beyond just the shared song with Emily. He found himself scribbling lyrics in a weathered notebook. Some were gifts of inspiration, while others were haunting. The act of writing became cathartic, unearthing thoughts he had long buried, reliving moments that exerted control over him. Change brewed within him, and he felt himself morphing. But was it for the better? He marveled at how this journey had transformed him, more reflective, deeply questioning his motivations. The spotlight he once dreaded now felt tantalizing, promising growth and exploration, but also harsh judgments. One evening, in a moment of quiet reflection, he shared a verse from his notebook with Emily. "It's not perfect, but I feel like this embodies what we're going through," he said, displaying revelations he'd uncovered. Her eyes sparkled with admiration. "This is brilliant, Jack. It captures our journey, the vulnerability, the flaws. Let's work on it together." In sharing his unfiltered thoughts, Jack realized he had stepped into a new dynamic of collaboration. Crafting lyrics together felt electrifying, dismantling barriers he had built when he shared only surface-level work. This was deeper than harmonizing melodies. It reflected their journey towards authenticity. Yet with newfound bravery, the darker fears lurked ever present. Now that he had started to forge a voice, what if it was too distinctive, too unique for acceptance? Self-doubt crept in as he questioned whether he could build on this newfound confidence. As the days wore on, Jack confronted his biggest challenge yet: a local open mic night. The prospect of performing their new song loomed like a storm cloud, merging excitement with unyielding terror. A tangible test of everything he had learned, this moment felt pivotal, where creativity would collide with vulnerability in the rawest environment possible. Jack busied himself with plans for performance, rehearsing the new song meticulously, his heart racing at the thought of the crowd. Would they embrace his authenticity, or was he setting himself up for rejection? Emily found him pacing yet again. "You've got to believe in yourself, Jack. This is just an opportunity to share what matters to you," she said gently, brushing a strand of hair away from her face, her unwavering belief igniting something within him. As the night approached, Jack felt that old familiar dance of fear and determination within him, a cycle he was learning to navigate. Was this performance the threshold he needed to cross, or was it a cliff from which he might tumble into oblivion? The doors of the venue opened, revealing a crowd that seemed both inviting and intimidating. It was now or never. Would he embrace his truth and perform the song that told their story, or would the weight of self-doubt pull him back into the shadows? With a deep breath, he stepped forward, prepared to confront the audience that awaited. Would this be the moment he took flight, or the moment he fell? Jack's heart raced as he stepped onto the stage, the warm lights washing over him like a tide of energy. The nervous chatter of the crowd faded, and for a brief moment, all that existed was the guitar resting against his chest. He tuned into the melody that flowed through him, allowing it to ground him in the present, the culmination of his journey and a testament to his transformation. With a steadying breath, he glanced at Emily, who stood just off to the side, her smile bolstering his resolve. He strummed the first chord, letting it resonate into the air, a sound that was both an invitation and a declaration. As he began to sing, the words poured from him like a long-buried treasure. Each note he played was intertwined with pieces of his past, echoes of self-doubt, but they were now colored with newfound courage. He felt the connection with the audience, strangers yet kindred spirits, ready to embrace the vulnerability he shared. The fears that had once consumed him felt distant, evaporating as he sang lines that illustrated his truth. Through the power of music, he laid bare his struggles and revelations, intertwining personal reflections with shared experiences. The memories of his childhood, moments of both joy and pain, flowed alongside the melody, transforming from a source of shame into a wellspring of strength. With each verse, the applause grew louder, not just for the performance, but for the authenticity woven into the fabric of the song. Jack had transcended the confines of his past. He was no longer just a businessman chasing profits, but an artist engaging with his true self. The journey he had embarked upon with Emily had birthed a new identity, one rooted in connection rather than competition. He reached the chorus, and the audience erupted in cheers, validating everything he had poured into the performance. That thunderous applause resonated within him, a confirmation that his willingness to be vulnerable had crafted something powerful. As the final note lingered in the air, Jack stood still, heart racing and breathless. The crowd erupted into applause, a wave crashing over him as he took in the moment, a blend of exhilaration, relief, and pride washing over him in equal measure. Emily rushed forward, embracing him in a celebratory hug. "You did it!" she exclaimed, her excitement palpable. Jack's chest swelled with satisfaction. He had shown himself to be more than just a businessman. He had stepped into the mantle of a musician sharing his heart and soul. But beyond the external validation, he recognized something more profound. He had proven to himself that he could embrace vulnerability and transform it into artistry. His journey had not just been about music, it had encapsulated the very essence of his being, redefining what success meant for him. In the aftermath of their performance, Jack received messages and comments pouring in from social media, an unexpected flood of encouragement and praise for their song. People resonated with the authenticity he had showcased, with many sharing their own stories of overcoming doubt to pursue their passions. But this newfound recognition did not drown out the lessons he had learned along the way. Jack understood now that vulnerability was not a weakness. It was a doorway to connection, to true living and thriving. The applause was not the pinnacle of success. It was merely a reflection of his growth. Jack looked at Emily, gratitude sparkling in his eyes. They had ventured into uncharted waters together, and he was no longer paralyzed by fear. He had conquered his doubts, embraced the full spectrum of his experiences, and emerged as a creator ready to explore the vast landscape of expression that lay ahead. As they walked off the stage, a newfound confidence radiated from Jack. He could feel the shift in his identity, a solid confidence emerging from a foundation of self-discovery. This was his moment of awakening. He was not just a millionaire hidden behind corporate success. He had become a musician, an artist, and a person defined not by the expectations of others, but by his commitment to authenticity. And as he stepped into this new chapter, Jack knew one thing for certain. He was ready to face whatever came next, armed with the knowledge that true fulfillment lay in embracing one's passions, insecurities, and the beautiful mess of life itself. Now, if you've been inspired by Jack's incredible journey of transformation, you need to subscribe now and not miss our next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread more tales of personal overcoming. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything to help us shining the light on authentic journeys and unsung heroes. Don't miss out. Join our community today.